Lebedevs, thank you so much for spending time with us again. We get to talk to you, I like to say every year, but it's really only been 2 times now. And this is the conversation that we're going to have for the first time, for the last time, which is the Atlanta Open is in its last year. And I hear that you are doing some really cool retrospective events and bringing back past champions, bringing back past directors. Can you do us all? Can you tell me all about it, everything you're doing this year?
Yeah, look, we're doing a celebration of our grand finale. That's the goal right here. We're leaving Atlanta because we had an opportunity to help American tennis and go up to a higher level event. The option from the ATP was not to be able to stay in Atlanta in the summer. So we're not leaving because anything's bad. So we are really looking at it as a celebration. And the part about that it is important is we wanted to bring back the players that have been a part of our 14 years of the Atlanta Open. And that's why it's a Venus Williams and Sloane Stephens, 2 players who have competed in our Sunday Showdown, and Venus being one of the first ever players. And so we're doing that, which is a lot of fun, obviously. And then on Monday night, we thought, what's the best way to do Monday night? So we said, let's bring back the champions, and then let's get into play a little bit of doubles. So we're bringing back John Isner, who's a 6-time champion and 3-time finalist. And then you add in there Andy Roddick, whose last title he won was here in Atlanta against the Bryan brothers. So between them, I think they've got 14 Atlanta Open finals, of which John's won 6, Andy's won 1, and Mike and Bob have won 2. So, we're going to do that. And they're going to be mic'd up. It's been a great conversation getting Andy to come in there. And I'm sort of throwing back the old question on Nick Kyrgios, who said 2 great singles players will always beat a great doubles team. So, of course, I said to John and Andy, I said, well, what do you think about that? Andy sent me a note that sort of said, hey, I've been retired for 12 years, man. Those guys are still out there playing. I'm not sure about that. Of course, John was a little bit more like, hang on, I've only retired a little while. I think we can do it. So they'll have a lot of fun. They'll be mic'd up on Monday night. So that'll be great. And then we're having way back Wednesday, we're doing a social campaign around some old things that people have had, the fans, whether it be the posters or the shirts or the, any of the memorabilia. There's an online option to be a part of that. So we're really doing some fun things. And then, even on top of that, we've got a new partner for our food service that'll be happening in our Inner Circle Lounge, which will be presented by Proof of the Pudding this year. So that'll be a fun new aspect that's going on. You're going to see the review graphic is going to be the Hawkeye. It's going to be sponsored by Proof of the Pudding, and it'll say, show me the proof when it comes up, which is kind of cool. We were the first event in the US to do digital backwall. So we're always trying to do a few different things out there and have some fun. And then, of course, we've got a heck of a field. Ben Shelton, obviously local guy who's, as tough as there is, and had a very good Wimbledon. And then we had Francis Tiafoe, who hadn't been playing great, but then really turned on and had some great results at Wimby as well with his matches. So I think that. And then you've got Jordan Thompson and actually Max Purcell's going to be in there too. They're in the final of doubles right now. So, it's going to be a great field as we always have. And then, you throw in a couple of guys like Denis Shapovalov. Denis hasn't been here, so it's going to be great to see that lefty play. Big game. If he gets hot, he's tough to beat, and he's playing some good ball. And then we've got Riley Opelka, who's been out for probably close to 2 years with a wrist injury and a hip injury, because he pulled out of our event many years ago with a bad hip that he had surgery on, and then he had wrist surgery. But he is playing like a man possessed right now, and his serve is looking even better than ever, if that's possible.
That's scary.
He hit us. I think you've probably seen it. All of us tennis players get fed the same thing from social media. He hit a serve down the tee on the ad side, and it landed in, and I think it went probably 3/4 of the way in the fence on the other service box. It was moving that far. So Riley's going to be very dangerous here because he's coming back like that. So I think we've got some great players, and then some great new things to, as well as our celebration of all of our years that we've been here.
The players are often the focus publicly and internationally, because everybody says who's playing where, and right. The old complaint of Atlanta, why don't we get Roger or Rafa? If you just don't understand the way 250s work, we're not going to explain it here. But the players are often that, but really the in-person, the feel-good stuff that we like, because we're in Atlanta, we care. Go Tennis is there. We get to take pictures and be part of it as a media entity, and to really see the things you're doing that don't often make the television. They don't often make the larger
absolutely.
tennis channel. Is that a thing that you guys get a chance to share? Is it just on social media? Is it going to be covered by anybody? Do we get a chance to see more of that retrospective, as you say, you're calling it the celebration? Like,
yeah, celebration. Yeah, look, we really don't have we don't have all of the Tennis Channel cameras coming around following all those things. So it really is, what makes us unique is we are a very personal event. So if you're here, you're going to have those opportunities to see that and be a part of that. And, for our seats, I think our worst seat is 60 feet from the court. I mean, that's our worst seat. I mean, that's pretty darn good when you can do that. So it's a really up close and personal aspect that we create. But to see those fun things on that way back that we're going to do, and, when you come on site, not all of them, but a lot of our player pictures that you're going to see in front of our venue is going to be all of the past champions. We're really doing a salute to that. So, and we're putting something together where you're going to sign, if you've been here, you're going to be able to sign your name to a really large poster we're creating, so that, hey, I was here on the last celebration of our Atlanta Open. So it doesn't get seen a lot like that. It is mostly social and sort of telling stories when you get here. But it's still, look, it's fantastic. We're excited to really put this one and really get it started. And, as you talk about the players too, players are always, it's one of those things, they all get hurt. We have our players coming in, and then all of a sudden you get one, like we had a few years ago. Nick Kyrgios pulled out of his singles match. He couldn't go with singles, but he came out and he played dubs for the whole week, So those things change and happen. It's professional sports. It's always the fun challenge. On Monday night, we're going to have all the old tournament directors from the original of Bill Oakes, who was the very first one, and Bob Bryant, who was there for a couple of years, and Eddie Gonzalez, my mate, who I worked with for many years. He's going to be coming in and walking the players on the court. And let me tell you, between the four of us, we have some seriously fun behind the scene chats that you will, we're going to have us on the stage on Monday. We have a tourney talk each day, and we're going to be out there talking. Let me tell you, between that, I was finding out some things I didn't know about from the very, very beginning. So it's really a great opportunity to hear those stories and relive those great moments of the Atlanta event.
And where are you putting out the tourney talk? Where can people see that? Is that only?
It's in our gathering. No, you've got to be on site. It's one of our it's in our gathering area that we have down there. That's on our music stage that we have. That's our SeatGeek music stage every day. So that's where the guys come in at 4 o'clock each day, and we have a little chit and chat, and it's always fun. So is Saturday. It's Saturday at 2 o'clock on that first Saturday. We actually do the main draw, and I wish more people would see this. And we've done, excuse my ignorance, Facebook Live and that sort of streaming. I'm not exactly sure. I have my social team with it, Becky, who's done an amazing job for all these years, and Justine, our VP of marketing, send it out there. And what is wonderful, and you guys know this, people always talk about, oh, the draws are fixed. This is, it's, he always,
they
come
aren't?
and see how the draw is made. It is absolutely pulled out. I walk around and I let somebody pull out a chip and things like that. It's a great thing for people to be a part of. So that first Sunday, which is, Public's free kids weekend, so any kids can get in free that weekend. Mum and Dad come down, bring the whole crew, and they all get in and come and see how a draw is made. I just think that is the thing that people don't know. And it's always funny when they say that.
Well, Bobby, in that case, I think we should be down there. We can do a Facebook Live. We have
absolutely.
We can be down there and cover it as well.
Hold the camera up and
Yeah, we can make that work. And then Saturday for us, you mentioned Eddie Gonzalez. He's got a chance to be in his own final playing in the Pro League on Saturday afternoon, which is being played on, and we have a vested interest, of course.
Yeah.
Our Go Tennis team that's there in the league, and we're hoping our team wins tonight to see if we make the finals, but we'll be there either way. But
is tonight the one that makes the decision as who gets to the final?
There is a potential for a 4-way tie for second place with 5 teams total.
Oh wow, I love it. I was out there last week for the match they had last week, and it's tremendous. And look, that's what we want to do. We want to showcase people here in town playing tennis and doing that. And those guys are going to play on Saturday night on the grandstand court while the semifinals are going on. With the idea being that people in our inner circle lounge, presented by Proof of the Pudding, are going to get to have something to look at. And also with that, we're also raising some money through a program called Rally for Charity, where those clubs and those events that are involved, they've got the kids out there rallying balls for a certain amount of time and raising money that we'll present to the USTA Southern, USTA Georgia, and USTA Atlanta. We'll take all the money that league raises, and we will present a check, split it up 3 ways to all of those entities who are always obviously giving back to tennis. So we're thinking that they get to play on the stadium court and they get to give to a great cause and help that league grow. So it should be really, really fun.
They get to play on the stadium court. How old? I'm 46. Can I play on?
You'll play on the grandstand court. You won't play on the stadium court. You got that semi-final singles match, which I don't know. It could be Ben Shelton and Francis Tiafoe. I'm not sure if
that court will be busy.
I think so. Could be.
That court will be busy. We'll be there either way. And so Sunday is your draw show?
Saturday at 2:00 on down there in the gathering area. We do our draw ceremony, which is a lot of fun. And look, just so as everybody knows this too, throw one out there. You guys might be the first guys sort of hearing it. Is our number 1 seed in qualifying will be Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who is number 36 in the world.
Yeah.
He called me last week and said, "Hey, I want to play. Have you got a wild card left?" And I said, "Sorry, I've only got a qualies wild card." And
you said no to a guy who's 35 in the world?
Yeah, I've only got so many wild cards, and
That's true.
it was Dennis and Riley and Andres Martin from Georgia Tech. So he said, "Great, I'll come and play. I'll go and play the qualies." And his coach is Fernando Verdasco, so Fernando will be in the crowd with him and helping him out.
Oh, so nice, one of my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a guy that was on our poster a few years ago. So we've got Fernando coming in coaching, and we've got Alejandro, who's going to be playing our qualies. That will be our highest seeded player ever in qualies. That's for sure.
I am not happy for the rest of the qualifying guys.
But the thing about it is those guys are all so tough. They're really working so hard. If I look at some of those guys that we've got in the qualies, I mean, these guys, Yoshi Nishioka's there, JJ Walton, Adam Walton, the Aussie guy that just did pretty well in Wimbledon. It's never easy. You get the heat out here, but yes, the pundits would say he has a very good chance.
He's got a good shot at it. Exactly. And Bobby says he doesn't follow a lot of the tour on a day-to-day basis, but I'm sure Bobby pays attention to this event. Where are you going with this year, Bobby?
Oh, we'll be there Wednesday night. We're bringing our group of 100 some odd people.
That's awesome.
We'll definitely be down there on Wednesday night.
And that's
good. Go Tennis paraphernalia on too. We'll be sporting the colors.
Yeah, we'll have everybody with their Go Tennis bags walking around on hopefully representing. But yeah, Wednesday, and that's your way back Wednesday. So we should
it's like
the old version of the logo.
Look, the old version of the logo and all of the between, Capelli's a fantastic brand we've had the last 2 years for our clothes, but we've had a bunch of different people over the years. We even had the kids in Crocs for a little while as ball kids. We've had a bunch of other brands, Boast, Wilson, Rem Reynolds. We had a bunch of great ones. So that'll be fun if some of the guys could wear that. But Wednesday night too, one of our 2 top seeds will be playing that night. Don't know which one. It'll all depend on when the draw is made. That would be another thing, Netflix should have done behind the scenes with the tournament directors, because you wouldn't believe how much goes into deciding who can play, who can't play, who's playing doubles. I know that you guys are familiar with running sort of junior tournaments, and you just map it out. This is the time they're playing. Well, we've got to be looking at, okay, which TV wants it? Tennis Channel wants this player. We're going to over 100 countries around the world. And, Germany wants this player to be on the court. So they've got to make the 2 TV guys happy. Then they're playing doubles. And they look, when I'm sitting there on Tuesday doing the schedule, they're already looking at, well, if Francis, who's playing doubles, if Francis gets through to the final and he's in doubles, we have to do X, Y, and Z. So they're planning that far out. It's a really tricky process that nobody sees, but I might get you guys to just come up to one time in there. you're going to block off a couple of hours just listening to, okay, Tennis Channel wants this, tournament wants that, international TV wants that. We always work it out, but just sort of one of those little things that nobody knows happens on the back end.
You send me the information, I will be there with a camera and a notepad, because that sounds fascinating. Guys like us, that insider kind of information. I've been consuming some of Andy Roddick's podcast recently.
He's great.
And he's doing a great job and killing it. I've invited him on to come talk to us. I don't know if he'll respond, but he was talking to James Blake about Miami, and just some of those questions of just how they choose the tennis balls is not a simple answer.
It's a combination. You're absolutely right. I mean, I was looked at that podcast he did. James had to deal with the coffee for the players. The coffee was heaven forbid. We don't get the right coffee, but it is the ball. It is all of those things. And Andy talked a lot about the player guarantees and how all of that works. And he used to come to my event in Memphis for years, and he talked about on the podcast how that worked in his plan of schedule. Wasn't a long flight drive for him, so all of these things that go into that behind the scenes stuff is what's really enjoyable about Andy's podcast. He's talking about very different things, and why Roger Federer didn't play a lot of events in the UK before Wimbledon.
That was interesting too, about his clothing contract. That was very interesting.
That's exactly right. I mean, those are the things that people just say, hey, why don't you have this guy playing? It's not as easy as everybody thinks.
Yeah, Lacoste, and that doesn't really answer the question. It's like, because right. Lacoste.
Exactly. It's funny how that is, but that's why on that Monday we'll have the guys, the former tournament directors, chatting, and people will come up. Hopefully this will be the sort of as you say, you guys like yourselves, you love getting into the details behind the scenes. It's great to watch the forehands and backhands, but it's also what goes into putting these things on and all the extra stuff that you've got to do. So
yeah, and that's Monday. All right, so we want to make sure, because I'm going to put everything in the show notes when we put this out as well. Say here's the schedule, and it's a reminder of people saying, yeah, it's hot and you've got your complaints. That's fine. There are so many cool things down there, aside from the air conditioned spaces and the fact that you can get a seat in the shade. It's not as miserable as those who have never been complained about, right? But in this case, there's so much to do. It isn't just me sitting in the sun watching tennis. You got that covered space with drinks and food. You got your food trucks, you got your vendors. It's really a cool space to just go hang out, even if you're not watching tennis the whole time.
Exactly right. I mean, there are lots of opportunities to have some fun with that and see some different things. Even our family zone court, the court in between the two, sometimes the guys, certain times of the day after 3 o'clock each day, we open that up for practice. So you might get to see some great players practicing there as well that you didn't know about. So there's always, and even last year we do the Alta mixed doubles playoff, AA2 do their playoff championship on site. Last year it came down to the 5th match, and let me tell you, the crowd was really pumped. There was some good tennis going on, and because it was the 5th match, everybody was excited. It was a lot of fun, having that Alta playoff like that there, and it's just that's what we want to have. Create some things that other people can watch, and maybe it's your friend out there playing is why you want to do it, because not everybody knows Francis today. Say, hey, Francis, and have a chat. But the guy that's playing out there on that court, their Alta mixed doubles final, you can say, hey, I know them, I played against them. It's sort of fun.
Yeah, and we hope to bring a little bit of that on Saturday with the Pro League, because those are our friends, those are our peers, and guys we coach with, guys we play against in the AA levels and the 5-point. Like, it's high. I don't think a lot of the fans can tell much of a difference sometimes at a level of how good some of our local guys are compared to what's going on the big court. We know the difference, but I don't know that everybody does.
No, and honestly, that's a great point. I always watch the qualies and think they look so good in the quals. Like, gosh, this guy's going to tear through. But then you know what you do? You look at the radar gun, and the second serve in the qualies is in the 80s. And then you look at the second serve in the main draw, and it's in the 90s. And that's not discernible. Obviously, we know it. If you're sitting back there returning, you're, whoa, I feel the difference. But to the average person watching and on TV, you're like, what's the difference? But that's where I always remember, that's the best way to look at it. You just see those numbers go up, and everything that the better players do, they just do everything a little bit harder and they move a little bit faster, but undetectable to the eye. But that's one that, I'd say to fans, check that out. Sort of like, just watch the difference in that second serve between the players that are in qualies and main draw, and you're just going to see a pretty big difference. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the best testament on why you want to be there, because you get like our students will watch something and they think the camera is showing them. And I'm like, that's really, I'll never forget. I used to go watch back when it was at the Atlanta Athletic Club. Michael Chang always used to come. And and this is number 2 in the world at the time, he just got ready earlier than everybody else. And it, like you said, to the normal person, just watch it, but you sit there and go, as soon as that ball hasn't even crossed the net and he's already recognized the stroke and he's preparing to hit his. And it was great. That's why you want to be there. That's the difference from being there as opposed to watching it on television. And that's a great reason to go.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you see those, look, for the kids. I always, obviously, I've been a coach for 40 years out here. That just showed how old I am. But it's always been a coach at heart. So I would always take kids to any live matches that I could go to, or any college matches, for that exact reason, to see what it's like. Because TV doesn't look like they're hitting it that hard on TV. Let me tell you, you get down on that court level and you get behind those guys, and it's like, holy gosh. People say the hardest thing to do is hit a baseball. I don't know about that. I know that Jim Courier and Andre Agassi have gone out to the Mets field and been able to hit those guys pitching at them. I don't think those hitters could take a Riley Opelka 140 down the tee, moving another 20 feet when they don't know when it's going left or right, not in a little box this big. I always think that return of serve is just like, stand behind it and watch that and see what you think. It's unreal.
Well, that's a great Andre Agassi story. He took batting practice at Dodger Stadium, and they with a pitching machine, and he said, well, can you make it faster? And they said, no, we really can't. So he moved 6 feet closer. And
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and then they did the math and like, all right, he's hitting something. He's not hitting home runs, but he's making contact with something at 115 miles an hour. They're all like, holy cow. He's like, oh, this is too easy. Let's make it a little more difficult. So yeah, it is. And I agree. Being a baseball player, I always say that. But the caveat today is there's no more difficult sport than tennis. And if again, you have to see it live to truly appreciate everything that goes into it, to the point where 140-mile-an-hour serves, you're surprised when they don't return it. They're that good.
No, exactly. You watch, Novak, that guy doesn't miss a return. I mean, it's the worst part of my game is my return, but so he can take all of those things. What makes him so good? He makes those returns, puts the ball in play, which is, unbelievable what those guys can do. And honestly, coming to a match here at Atlanta, you talk about the best athletes. I mean, it's aerobic, anaerobic fitness, number one, as well as hand-eye coordination and balance. There's not many sports that do that. And then in 100-degree heat for up to, 3 hours. That's what makes our sport pretty daggum hard. You got to be a super athlete, I think, to be successful in tennis. Hence, therefore, I'm an organizer and not a player. Got it.
Well, makes the decision easier.
Absolutely.
Well, right. But there's again, not to harp on Andy's podcast, I've just been watching it a lot recently because I'm excited about it. We talk about how many businesses there are around tennis.
Yep.
And a lot of us, we hire former athletes because they know how to be on time. They know how to not get sick. They know how to work as a team. And it's a good hire. It's somebody that can work in an organization. Now, there's a competitive thing you're going to have to struggle with potentially. But to be able to have people around in your organization that are former tennis players, it's really good to have that athlete. It doesn't mean everybody's got to go pro and we all have this angst because we didn't make it. It's, tennis is part of our lives. And whether we ever thought we were going to be playing at the Atlanta Open or not, taking your kids, I want to go back to that. Take your kids to these events. How many of these professional players said, the time that changed my life was when I went to X event?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they all do. I mean, I can tell you, Ross Case played Ray Ruffles in the West Australian Open, and I won tickets from a radio show around the corner from my house at the Kings Park WA Open. To this day, I remember that. Walking up there, watching it on the grass, and like, ooh, I want to play it. Ross Case, I can tell you, was using a wooden Adidas racket and had the 3 stripes, and I just thought it was the coolest freaking thing in the world. That's why I started playing. So, and exactly, free weekend, Publix free weekend for the kids. Bring them down on Saturday and Sunday. Come see the qualies. There's so much fun stuff out there. We want the kids to be inspired. We want really everybody to be inspired. Atlanta is the best league tennis town in the US, and arguably I think even in the world, with the USTA and the Alta leagues. Everybody's doing that sort of tennis. So it is inspirational for people to come down here and see this stuff.
Agreed. And that's where we want to get everybody down there. It's the last one. And you said it's been, I kind of say it's been swallowed up by the larger events, but there's that tour decision. It wasn't like Atlanta did anything wrong. It's this, the schedule is changing, right? Can you give me a little insight on that for those who don't understand?
Yeah, look, the ATP has gone to creating premium events and having less events for the players. So that's really how the model is going. So they recognize some opportunities in the schedule, February being one of them. And they said, we want to put a 500 event in February. And then the only people that could bid on it were people that had or owned 2 events. So 17 bidders came out there, and obviously that's us. And we said, we want to help the American players. We've got so many great Americans right now between, Tommy, Fritzy, our former champion from last year, Ben, Francis, Sebi, these guys coming up. So we looked at it, which Gary Furman, our principal, has always been about growing tennis and US tennis. He owns 7 tennis clubs in the New Jersey area. He's a tennis guy first. So he's like, we need to do this to help our American men. And then obviously, 17 different bids, and we were able to get it in February. And so unfortunately we couldn't be in Atlanta, but Atlantic Station has been a tremendous facility for us. Have really been great. There's been 3 different iterations of our stadium here on site. So they've been great partners. The support that we've had from the business community has been very, very solid, obviously been successful. And then the fans and the volunteers, they've supported us year after year. We had when Nick Kyrgios played one of his doubles matches at 1 o'clock, we still had nearly 1,000 people here. That's the sort of fans we want to have, at any event. And it was really terrific for us to see that. So we're not leaving because we want to. And as Gary said in the press release, he said, I want us to be looking at bringing tennis back in a professional manner to Atlanta in some form or fashion. Now, that's where we are. There's been a couple of discussions, not a whole lot further down the road, but he's committed to us coming back because Atlanta is such a great tennis city. It really is, tennis community.
Well, in that case, Bobby, we need to be part of, sorry, Bobby's over there from my screen. Bobby, we need to be part of that conversation because we've been talking about what's next and talking to a few different groups and a few different ideas. And is there a way that professional tennis can be here, maybe in a different form?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the goal, whether it be, the women's, because we haven't had a WTA event here. And, we know that we've had a lot of support when we've done our Sunday showdown. So there is opportunities, we think, there, but it's still the same thing is, are there sanctions available to buy? When do they make the changes to the schedules? It's not as easy as, hey, bring an event here. So, but we are looking at opportunities to do something. And if we can bring something, we'll let everybody know as soon as we do.
Oh, I love it. Bobby, we're going to be part of that.
I think we just got a big hint, but I'm just saying.
Well, maybe, okay. Wasn't that big of a hint, but we're definitely.
Bobby likes to read into things. Be careful.
I just heard a lot there, so I'm all right. I'm excited. Well, I'm still thinking about my first live event. I got to tell you, my first tennis event was the U.S. Open. Val Ziegenfuss. Nobody remembers who Val Ziegenfuss was.
Oh, yeah.
Prince Racket. We were all like, what is that? I was in, my buddy's father worked for Tiffany's, so I was in a very nice box.
Yeah.
And standing next to me was Dr. Renee Richards. And as a 9-year-old, that was fairly different, especially for the time. And it was one of the infamous matches where Nastase completely lost his mind. That being courtside, the person who took me was literally bantering back and forth with Nastase. So I'll never forget it. So it was, you do remember. And I also remember going to the Atlanta Open, getting food and turning around and Michael Chang being on the food line with me because he would always walk around in the crowd because he wanted to get the experience of being part of it. So, you got to go. You got to go. You'll never forget.
That's wild. You remember that as specifically as I remember my first one. And, Renee Richards, that's, tennis has already been challenged on some other areas. So, that's terrific. I think that was Mr. Hammond was in the chair, I think, with that match with Nastase when he went nuts there. It was, but the thing about it is that's what I think it's good for our sport to have a little bit of people talking. Nick Kyrgios is terrific for the sport because he wears his heart on his sleeve and tells you how it is. And Andy's the same way. I've known Andy since he was 12 years of age. He was on we used to do zonals, 12 and under zonals, and from there they used to go to a thing called Challenge Cup. And Robbie Ginepri was on the same team, and Andy was my number 1 player, and Robbie was my number 2 guy when they were 12 and unders. Who knew they were going to be as great of players as they were? But Andy's that way too. In my discussions and bringing him here, he's been very upfront and terrific to deal with, and he just tells it how it is, which you're seeing on the podcast. And it's just good having people around that like that make tennis interesting in more ways than just on the court.
And I was there the night he got a little upset about the condition of the court, and I happened to be sitting with John Hanna and Mike Imbernone at the time. And I'm like, oh boy,
signature tennis. Come on, guys. That's you there, Mike.
Not looking at me. I swear I didn't do it. It's this guy here. So it's always fun.
Yeah. See, exactly. You know that story about that, and
yes,
when Andy,
I was there.
Yeah, exactly. You see him talking about the water and exactly.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Those are the things that everybody that's been around tennis long enough has some of those, and they're awesome.
Yep.
And sharing those stories is good. And I appreciate your time, Peter. And I will admit that my first in-person experience, interestingly enough, was also Michael Chang. And I think it was at Horseshoe Bend at the time when they were doing the AT&T Challenge.
Yep.
And all I could remember was Michael Chang's fitness. His legs were like tree trunks. And he just he wasn't a small guy in the real world, but in professional sports he was. But I remember seeing him going, holy crap. Like, is that what I need to do, Dad? Like, do I need to get that fit? My father was like, yeah,
yes.
that's what this takes. And
yes,
clearly that didn't happen for me. But I remember how inspiring that was. And that all these guys have that kind of inspirational, seminal moment, whether it was multiple. Bobby can remember multiple of why tennis was so interesting. And now I know more even about why Bobby thinks we need to make it cool again. Like, let's have some cool people in tennis and how we change that culture a little bit. But Peter, I appreciate it as always. And we will make sure to get the schedule out, and we will make sure to promote everything that's going on. And I'm excited about your director's conversation. So I'll admit that's the thing I'm going to put on the schedule and talk to my wife and say, hey, honey, Peter had a great idea. We'll see if we can pull this off. But I appreciate your time very much.
That sounds good. Shaun, Bobby, thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank you,
promotion. And look, hey, always go tennis. That's what we're after. More people playing tennis. So keep it up.
That's what we're doing. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Good luck
guys.
next week.
See you.
Have a good day.
Thanks.